So I'm currently sitting in this, my 2002 K11 Nissan Micra, and in this video we will be installing this right here, an aftermarket steering wheel. I want this to be a to the point and very straightforward video of how I'm going to install this onto this and replace this, and what you can expect the process to be if you're looking to do the same thing. Also, this is the stock wheel. We're not going to get into what happened to it. I tried to wrap it with the same material that I used on the door cards. Just ignore it. Also, there's no airbag. I took it out already, but I'll run you through how to do that. There are a few pros and cons to swapping out an original wheel for an aftermarket one. First of all, most obviously, as I've kind of already touched on the subject, there won't be an airbag. Also, that kind of gets into the legal aspect of it, which, I mean, here in Ireland you can kind of work around. It's not illegal, but in other countries you might get, I don't know, fined, arrested, have your car seized. Nothing too serious, but you know, maybe look into that first. Another one, depending on what sort of hub adapter you use, because you will need a hub adapter to fit an aftermarket wheel, your indicators might not click back by themselves. I already know that will be the case for me because of the adapter I got. Also, if you don't have power steering, parking with a smaller steering wheel won't be nice. This is, I think, a 38 centimeter wheel at the moment, and it has power steering, so it is super light steering. But imagine a 30 centimeter wheel with no power steering. Maybe just keep that in mind. One of the pros could be that it looks cool, I guess. It also might feel better to drive it, especially like you'll be able to turn the wheel quicker because it's smaller. I'm sure there's a few things that I've missed, but let's just get into it and we'll address them when time comes. So let's start by me telling you what I bought for the car and what I'll be installing. This is a Sparco steering wheel adapter for the 96 to 2003 model K11 Micra. So I assume it will fit onto a first facelift and second facelift model. I'll leave the details to the part number of this or whatever in the description. Unfortunately, I can already tell that it doesn't have the sort of back to be compatible onto the stock clock spring. So that means the indicators won't like reset by themselves. However, it does have this like golden ring on the back, which is for the horn, and that's good because I broke my clock spring, and without this I wouldn't have had a horn, but we'll get onto that later. Now, as for the wheel, we've got this, an OMP Trecento. I think that's how you pronounce it. 300 millimeter, so 30 centimeters. It is tiny. I wasn't expecting, well, I was expecting a 300 millimeter wheel to be 300 millimeters, but I didn't realize in person it would be this small. Anyway, it has a horn button. It's round. It looks as if it's leather. It's not. It's like polyurethane imitation. But, you know, it's good for the price. Anyway, it's a genuine OMP wheel. Both of these parts were fairly pricey, but, I mean, look, you're heading towards a tree, right? Like a big, massive tree. You're driving towards it. Driving along, and your brakes fail, right? So you can't slow down. You're heading for the tree. You can downshift. You can, you know, pull on the handbrake carefully, or you can steer away from the tree, right? So no biggie. Your brakes failed, but it's okay. Now imagine you're heading towards the tree. Your brakes work, so you can slow the car down, but you know it's a bit close. You hit the brakes, the car slows down. You go to turn, but your like €30 made in China steering wheel snaps. So you're heading towards the tree, you're slowing down, but you're still going to hit the tree. So you go like... I want this to be a to the point and very straightforward video. Anyway, so obviously I've already taken out the airbag, but to take out the airbag, if it's still in the car, which I assume it is, you remove this thing right here. So just put a little tiny flathead screwdriver, that's going to pop out. And same thing with the other one. And these torque bolts will be holding the airbag in there and in there. I forgot what size these are. I'm not going to tell you what size they are. It's not like a tutorial, right? Just take those out. Obviously, before that, disconnect the battery, let the car sit for a bit so the airbag doesn't explode. And take that off. The connector is on the airbag. And also, you're going to have a wire here for the horn, which I no longer have because I broke my clock spring. But that's relevant. This is a 19 millimeter nut. I can't really do this with one hand, but Right, you're going to break that loose, wind it out a bit. Now, I've already taken my steering wheel off a few times and put it back on. But what you're going to do is go like this to it with both hands. And then it should come loose like that. Now, once you take the steering wheel off, obviously assuming it's straight, that's the center straight dot thingy there. So steering wheel straight, take that off. You shouldn't see this, assuming you haven't messed with the car before. What you'll see is something more like this, which my one's broken. Also, at this point, you might as well take a Phillips head screwdriver and these ones here, this and that. Take those Phillips out and there we go. To remove this top part, you will need to unscrew that screw there, that one there, and just like kind of lift that up to give it a bit of space, because even at its lowest, this doesn't, it's kind of stuck. Now, with the stock clock spring, you won't be able to fit this Sparco adapter, as I've found out. So, thankfully, my one was broken anyway, so I didn't feel too bad. But what I've had to do is basically rip all of that out, including the clock spring, well, the clock spring, and all the wires that went to the airbag and horn. And basically, all of these bits of plastic used to be like there. So I've snapped all of them off, and it still doesn't fit perfectly. It does just about rub on the rest of the plastics when you tighten it down. So what I'm going to do is basically just, there we go, shave that down a bit. Now we're going to put it onto the steering shaft thing, these two dots being in a straight line with the center dot. Now we should have sufficient clearance in there. It should be okay. This can go back onto here and we can tighten that down. Now we can go ahead and install this, some sort of gasket I assume, and take the wheel. Actually, don't put the horn button in just yet, pop that out. And 6 Allen key bolts that came with the hub kit are now going to secure this onto there. There we go. So I've tightened them in like a crossing over pattern, like that. You get the point. And then tighten them really good. With the wheel on, we're going to go ahead and give that one final tightening action. Next up, we're going to connect the horn to this wire here. And the other terminal, I'm going to keep pointing down. And when I put it into here, it's just going to ground straight onto that piece of metal. Now, although I broke my clock spring, this specific adapter will let us kind of, well, not kind of, but have a horn using this button. So I've taken this wire here, and what I'm going to do with it is screw it into, I'm going to place it here and put a screw going into that little plastic hole in the casing of the clock spring. And the screw is also gonna go through this piece of wire, which took me about like 15 minutes to make. And what this does is, well, I'll try show you. It is a super awkward angle though. So my legs are here. I'm upside down under the steering wheel. And this piece of wire is going to go through here where the clock spring used to be, but obviously I've ripped it out. And it is going to constantly press against that little golden disc on the back of the steering wheel hub. But the other end of the wire is going to go into here and press on the terminal, and the screw is going to secure both of them down. So then there will be continuity at all times, even when I'm spinning the wheel, to the button. And when we press the button, that's going to ground out the horn relay. And so that is done. I've did what I said. Wire goes here, the other bit of bar gets screwed in there, and it is pressing up against that disc. So I can spin the wheel all I want and it still works. Obviously we no longer have an airbag, so this connector right here, which used to clip into there, but because the clock spring is broken, I just gone ahead and took it out. If you put a certain resistor between these two wires, the airbag light should go out. I don't have said resistor, but I will put a link in the description to a video showing or describing how to actually get this done, so you don't have an airbag light on the car. So I've installed the wheel onto the car. I haven't figured out the resistor for the airbag light, but I'm not going to worry about that now. Just check the link in the description. I wanted to make an outro for this video, so this is the outro. Goodbye.